Hi, my name is Bibek Adhikari. I am your English instructor. In today's class, we are going to solve the writing portion of Unit 16, that is, writing a short story. In this section, we are going to learn some of the tips and techniques that we are going to use while writing a short story. So, let's begin. So, in this class, we are going to learn how to write a short story in 10 simple steps. Writing a short story differs from writing a novel in several different ways. There is less space to develop characters, less room for lengthy dialogues, and often a greater emphasis on a twist or aha realization. So let's begin learning step by step how to write a short story. The first thing you need to do before writing any short story is you need to devise an intriguing scenario. What do you need to do? You need to devise an intriguing scenario. In other words, you need to find that scenario, find that scene, While writing a novel gives you more elbow room to develop characters and story arcs and symbols at a leisurely pace, writing a short story differs in that often there is a single image. So we have a single image, a single symbol, a single idea, or single concept underlying the short story. Some of the examples of original short story, scenarios are, if you have read Roald Dahl's famous short story Lamb to the Slaughter, a woman murders her husband with a frozen leg of lamb and serves the cooked evidence to the investigating officers. Have you read that story? A woman murders her husband with a lamb chop, and later on, she makes stew out of that lamb chop and serves it to the investigating officer. Quite a horrendous, quite a gothic scenario, if you ask me. But that's literature. If you have read William Faulkner's A Rose for Emily, a notorious town recluse dies, leaving the town to discover her grisly secret. So a person dies and suddenly other people find out his secret. So in Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the handsomest drowned man in the world, the way of life of an entire village is changed by the discovery of a mysterious, handsome drowned man who washes up on the beachfront. So a day, people find a dead man, very handsome, on the beach, and the whole fate of the town is changed. That is what we called finding a scenario. So find a scenario, where you can write down in a sentence or two. Write down that scenario, alright? Read many stories. Read the great short stories. Read Chekhov, read Hemingway, read Tolstoy, and find out, how these great writers, they draft the scenario. Find out that. And the second thing you need to do while writing a short story is this. You need to plan structure and themes around the publications you'll submit to. So this is more of a technical advice. If you are sending your short stories to magazines, newspapers, you need to work a little bit on the structure. So one of the benefits of writing short stories, either as preparation for writing a novel or maybe for your own sake, is that there are many publishing opportunities in short fiction. So you can send your short stories to literary journals or magazines, writing contest anthologies curated around specific topic and themes. Online publications could be digital journals, writing websites, and e-zines, e-magazines. So what you have to do is you have to, do a lot of research, find your target and find where you want to, submit your short story. Also find about the maximum and minimum, word count. So max and minimum word count. Also focus on formatting. So this is more of a technical advice. So there are some formatting requirements which you need to meet. Also find out the contact details for the person, also work on your themes. Some magazines, themes and topics. Some magazines, they only publish theme-based work. So work on that. Now let's, deviate from this technical advice and let's focus on the craft. Another thing you'll need to do is find the focus of the short story. So find the focus. Where's your focus? Find that focus. What does this mean? The scenario of a short story is the idea or image that sets the story in motion and opens narrative possibilities. Now the focus is communicative aspects. What do you want to say? So focus is all about what do you want to say. So this question is answered by focus. So why write a short story on this subject in particular? Ask yourself about that. So in doing this, you will build up something called central idea. Alright? You will find your own central idea. So explore your motivations, determine what you want to do with your short story, and then stick to your core message, considering that most marketable short stories tend to be 3,000 or 3,500 words, you'll need to make every sentence count. Let's say if you are Gabriel Garcia Marquez, one of the person I love the most when I read short stories, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Let's say you are Gabriel Garcia Marquez and you're writing a short story called The Handsomest Drowned Man in the World. So what's your focus? That is my question. Where does your focus lie when you're writing this short story called The Handsomest Drowned Man in the World? Dead man washes up on beach and his appearance causes momentous changes in a nearby village way of life. Then you might want to describe, the story's focus. What is the focus? Rural life, of course. Introduction of new things, change, tumult that is created in short story, in setting, finally death. So this is what we called finding the focus. Now, the fourth thing you need to do is you need to outline your characters and settings. It could be a single setting or it could be a multiple setting. So I'm writing outline your settings. All right. So writing a book, makes outlining essential, given the complexity of long form fiction. So you should bother with outlining, and you should, when you're talking about characters, let's say you're, outlining characters. And while you are outlining characters, you've got to pay special attention to physical appearance of the characters. How does your character look like? Physical appearance. So you should describe his or her face, posture, and mannerisms. So describe these things, describe the physical appearance. Now comes another aspect which you should be working on, and that is the personality of your character. Characters are, humans. They are not cardboard cutouts. They are not stick men or stick women, sticky figures. They are not people playing shadow fights. So give your characters some personality. Think about their occupation. What do they do? Think about their hobbies. What do they like to do during their free times? Think about their hobbies. Think about some backstory, and when you are outlining your setting, think about these things. So you are outlining your setting, and while you are doing so, think about these things in specific. Where does the story take place? Where does the story take place? ? Another thing that you should be focusing on is when does the story take place? So these things should be answered as soon as possible. You cannot simply write once upon a time, a long time ago, in a distant village. That is completely generic. So don't be generic, be specific. So long time ago. So talk about the length of the time, in a distant village. Which village? Define the village. Describe the village, Do that. Be specific when it comes to setting, and think about these two things, right? Now the fifth tip of writing a short story is number 5. Choose a point of view. We call it POV in literature. Choose a point of view. What is a point of view? Point of view can create subtle shifts in characterization. For example, a character who narrates the story in first person may seem strong and self-possessed. You could make the same character seem much less powerful by using the second person instead. So there are 3 different POVs, and they are first person, limited, number B is second person narrative, and third is third person objective or omniscient. Alright, limited, the first person is limited, second person narrative. So when you are writing a short story in first person, your narrative should begin with I or we. Alright, when you're writing a short story in second person, your narrative would begin with the word pronoun you. And when you're writing short story in third person, which you will normally do, you will begin by writing he, she, they, or it. So the famous, POV is third person. After that comes the second person. First person. The second person is somehow difficult to do. So if you're not sure how to use second person, don't try. Now comes the 6th idea, and that is write your story as a one-page synopsis. Write your story as a one-page synopsis. Let's talk about this. This might seem like a dubious idea. Should you do this or should you not do this? After all, how will you know, where the story will take once you start writing? Because inspiration would get over you and you would have no idea what you're doing. So the truth is that even just attempting this as an exercise will give you the idea of the strong and weak points of your story idea. That is why what you should do is you should write a one-page synopsis or a one-page summary, right? Summarize the story. Generally, a good short story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. This was said by the famous Greek philosopher Aristotle. Aristotle in his book The Poetics, but not always in the same order. So it could be end in the beginning, middle, and and in the end beginning. So not always in this order. The order could be simply reversed, because modern stories, they do not follow the classical, axiom. All right. But what you have to do is just write a page-long summary, and that would do, because that would help you what your story is. That would help you to get some ideas on what your short story is all about. Now we come to the 7th point. Tip number 7 is write a strong first paragraph. Write a strong first paragraph, right? So how would you do that? How would you write a strong first paragraph? Joe Bunting says, just put pen to paper. Don't worry about what comes out. It's not important, You just need to get your story started. So I'm writing that here. Just put pen to paper, all right? Don't worry about what comes out. Keep writing. This is the secret of writing in the greatest short stories. Just put your pen to the paper. Don't worry about what comes out. It could be very rough, the first draft. The point of writing a first draft is getting the beginning and the end and the middle all together in a page. Not in a page, but across the pages, I mean. All right, so do that. Keep writing. But write a strong paragraph, first paragraph. The first sentence generally catches your reader's attention with the unusual, the unexpected, and action could be a conflict. That is why begin with tension, so that there is an act of immediacy. Now the 8th advice is create a strong climax and resolution. Now climax is the middle part, while resolution is the end of the story. So that is why the climax of the story is crucial in long as well as short fiction. Stories, particularly the climax helps to give the story a purpose and shape. So climax gives stories a purpose and some shape. All right. And what does the resolution do? Resolution ends the short story. And there are 3 different distinguished kind of end. It could be an open end where we don't know what happens. The reader must piece together the final page's implications. So the reader does not know what happened in the short story. The character suddenly vanishes like that. The character dies without any foreshadowing, and we are left gaping, wondering at what happened. Another is close ending, and in close ending there are 2 kind of endings. One is comedy, where everyone is happy and everyone is unified in the end. Another is what we call tragedy, where one of the character dies. Or it could be a mix of comedy and tragedy, thus giving birth to a new genre called tragic comedy. So many of the short stories written by the greatest writer follow the tragic comic genre. Now let's go to the 9th advice. The 9th advice is rewrite. And why rewrite? Because you are rewriting for clarity, and another reason that you are rewriting is you're rewriting for structure. All right, you're rewriting for clarity and you're rewriting for structure. Finally, the last advice that I would like to give you is choose a great title. So this you can actually do towards the end of the story. So choose a great title, and now it is time to submit your short story to the contest and publishers. Well, good luck. So this is how we write a short story. Seems interesting, doesn't it? All right, now we come to the homework section. Your homework is going to be pretty easy. Since you know now how to write a short story, all you have to do is write a short story that ends with the sentence, and then I woke up. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? So all you have to do is write a short story by applying the 10 rules that you've just learned with an end in your mind. What you're doing is you are keeping an end in your mind and you're writing a short story. So you already know what is going to happen in the end. And that is you're going to wake up from your dream. Think about that and write a short story. With this, we have come to end of today's class. If you have any questions or suggestions regarding these video series, feel free to write us at learning@deerwalk.edu.np. Thank you.